everybody. This is Tony Robinson from Restoration of Torah Ministries, and I'm here with episode number 4 in our continuing series on the man-child. So far, we've seen that the woman of Revelation 12 is the nation of Israel. We've also seen that the man-child of Revelation 12 is definitely not Yeshua. But let me give you a hint as to where we're going so that I can allay some of your fears, because I'm sure some of you are like, well, surely the man-child is Yeshua. How could it not be Yeshua? Well, in the previous episode, we gave you plenty of reason to see that it's not him. Let me just say this now, and I'm going to say this, and then it will stimulate some thought in you. I believe Yeshua is a man-child, right? He is a man-child. In fact, I would say that he's the man-child of man-childs. It's just that he's not the man-child of Revelation chapter 12, as we saw in our previous episode. So think about those words that I just said, and it will, if you think about them, it'll show you kind of where we're going. Of course, if you're patient, we're going to get there in the next couple of episodes of this podcast. So again, welcome to Tony Robinson's Torah podcast. Something else, hey, I just wanted to say something. In the previous episode, I did not emphasize the point that Yeshua was not saved at his birth by being caught up to heaven. You remember in Revelation chapter 12, verse 5, it says that the man-child will be caught up to heaven as soon as he's born, and that was the act of Adonai that saved him. Well, Yeshua was not, first of all, he was not attacked at his birth. It was months later as he was a small child in Bethlehem. But second of all, he was attacked. The devil tried to use Herod to kill him. And Yeshua was not saved from Herod by being caught up to heaven. See, Revelation 12 says that the man-child will be saved by being caught up to heaven. Yeshua was not caught up to heaven. That did not occur at his birth. And there are some that would say, well, he was caught up later on when he ascended to heaven. Well, there are a couple of reasons why that doesn't match. Number one is Revelation 12 makes it plainly clear that the catching of the man-child occurred at his birth. Right? Not years later. It occurred at his birth. So it can't be that. Also, the Greek words that are used for the man-child going up in Revelation 12 is harpazo. It's the word that would be similar to the rapture, right? He was taken, seized, or grabbed was the man-child up to heaven. And he had to be seized and grabbed. And because the devil was ready to destroy him. But when he ascended, that is the Greek word anabeno, and it just kind of means to drift upward, right? So that's not what's going on, all right? So, and here's another reason. Here's something else that I didn't give you in the previous teaching as to why it's not Yeshua. In Revelation 1:19, it says, write these things which you have seen. This is Yeshua talking to John. And the things which are, and the things which shall take place after this. Oh, I love that. It just gives so much structure to the book of Revelation. The things which you've seen, the things which are, and the things which will take place after this. The things which you have seen is Revelation 1 through 18. The things which are Revelation chapter 2-3, and the things which shall take place after this, when is that? That's Revelation chapter 4 through 22, chapters 4 through 22. And how do we know that? Because remember what he said, right? The things which are, the things which you've seen, which are, and which will take place after this. Look at Revelation chapter 4, verse 1. It says, after these things I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven, and the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here, and I will show you things which must take place. Ah, there's that phrase. After this, exactly what was said in Revelation 1:19. So in other words, everything in chapters 4 through 22, I believe, are future events. And remember, John wrote this. Most people estimate in the 90s of the Common Era. Yeshua had already died and resurrected almost 60 years previous to that. So that's another reason. So what we've seen is that Yeshua only fulfills, I mean, if we're gracious, he fulfills about 7 of them, but he really kind of fulfills 5. 3 literal and 2 thematic, but there is a way you can add a couple more, but I don't. Oh man, you're really stretching things there. But basically, let's just grant that. Let's say 5 to 7 of the 15 markers for the Revelation 12 man-child. He only fulfills about 5 to 7 of them. So the question is there anyone who comes closer to fulfilling who the identity of the man-child in Revelation chapter 12? And guess what? I told you last time I was going to give you someone. Did you think about it? Did you come up with an answer? You know who I want to suggest? I suggest to you that Moses fulfills the Revelation 12 man-child way more than Yeshua does, and I've got the receipts, and we're going to bring them to you today. Now, let me go ahead and say Moses is not the man-child either. And you guys are probably like, man, Tony, you are tight. You are just not giving in to anybody, are you? Well, you'll see why. You'll see why as we continue these episodes. Anyway, let's go through the 15 themes again and try to find literal and thematic fulfillments of those themes associated with the Revelation 12 man-child in Moses' life. And I want you to find a safety belt, hook it up, and pull it tight, because we will not be stopping today. All right, theme number 1, Revelation 12, 1 through 2. What it says is that now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. So this right here tells us that the nation of Israel, that is the woman who gives birth to the man-child. So yes, Moses is literally a son of the nation of Israel. So he literally fulfills that first theme. How about Revelation chapter 12, verse 5? It says, she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Well, this teaches us, again, what we're doing is we're just going through Revelation chapter 12 and looking at what it says, right, about this man-child, and then saying, okay, who fulfills it, right? It says that, so 12:5, she bore a male child. It says the woman's going to bear a male baby. So yes, we have Moses literally is a male child. Exodus 2:2, so the woman conceived and bore a son. Let's look at theme number 3. Theme number 3 is Revelation 12:5 again. That verse is just pregnant with meaning for the Revelation 12 man-child. It says, she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. All right, so this verse teaches us that the man-child will rule the nations with a rod of iron. Now, you remember that I told you that that's taken from Psalm 2, which is a messianic psalm. So we know for a fact that this idea of ruling with a rod of iron, that is applied to Yeshua. And it even says so in in Revelation 19:11, it says that when he comes, that he's going to rule the nations with a rod of iron. So in this right here, Moses fulfills this portion of the prophecy either thematically or literally. I'm going to say literally, in that he will rule Israel with a rod of iron, as well as he punished other nations. Remember when other nations came against Israel, when he led them through the wilderness? All right, remember the Amalekites attacked and Moses was able to lead Israel to victory? Remember some of the other wars that he led them on right before they made it to the promised land? And so the sense of Psalm 2 is that the Messiah will rule all nations, right? That's really the sense of Psalm 2, where it says he's going to rule with a rod of iron. All nations. So again, Moses didn't rule the world. No, he didn't do that. So we see kind of either you can call it literal or thematic. Doesn't make me any difference. I'm going to call it literal because he did rule over Israel and he ruled over other nations in the sense that he was able to conquer them, and because he conquered some nations on the way to the land of Canaan, right? So Acts 7:35, it says, this Moses whom they rejected, saying, who made you a ruler and judge, is the one God sent to be a what? A ruler and deliverer. He ruled with a rod of iron. As a matter of fact, part of the meaning of rod of iron is that you're going to rule with a rod of iron. That means that you're going to rule according to the law. What the law says, you're going to make sure that it's enforced. And Moses did that. That's the reason why I say that he fulfills the Revelation 12:5 theme of ruling the nations with a rod of iron, right? Exodus 4:16 through 17, when Moses was sent to Pharaoh, Adonai talked to Moses. He said to Moses, so he's talking to him about his brother Aaron. It says, so he shall be your spokesman to the people, and he himself shall be a mouth for you. Now notice what Adonai says to Moses. He says, and you shall be to him as God, right? And Moses led the destruction of the nation of Israel. Of the nation of Egypt. I'm sorry. So again, we see however you want to look at it. We can even say thematically. I like that one literally, though, even though it doesn't apply to all nations. But you can see how Moses fulfills that. Let's look at another theme number 4. Revelation 12:4 says, his tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. This verse teaches us that the devil tried to kill the man-child immediately upon his birth. And so I'm looking at the timing here on Revelation 12:4. Remember how I was a stickler when it came to Yeshua, and I said, well, the devil didn't try to kill Yeshua at his birth. It was months later. And I know some of you guys are probably out there thinking, well, Tony, you're being a little legalistic here. I count that when he tried to kill Yeshua months later, I count that as at his birth. Okay, well, guess what? Watch this. The devil tried to kill Moses when? Was it a few months later, like with Yeshua? No way, Jose. The devil tried to kill Moses immediately upon his birth, because remember what Pharaoh had told the midwives. When you see that it's a son, as soon as that baby comes out of the womb, you see it's a son, then you are to kill him. And they did not obey that command. And so then Pharaoh gave the command, and he said, if it's a male boy, you throw him into the river, meaning the Nile River. In other words, do you see how literally this is a thematic match with Moses? The devil tried to have Moses killed as soon as he was born. And again, as I said, as we go through this, you're going to see that Moses fulfills the prophecy of the man-child of Revelation 12:5 way more than Yeshua does. It's not even a close comparison by the time we get through with this thing, right? All right, so in other words, the devil knew it was time for the birth of the one who would deliver Israel, and that's why he had Pharaoh try to kill all of the male children as soon as they were born. He was trying to snuff out the life of God's, I'm going to say this, he was trying to snuff out the life of God's man-child who was being born, hint, hint. But this is not the Revelation 12 man-child. All right, how about theme number 5? Revelation 12:5, it says, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. All right, the context indicates that, it says she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. The context tells us that it's the catching up of the child right at his birth that saved the man-child from the enemy's evil designs, right? Okay. Now, in other words, immediately after the child was born, he was saved. All right. The Revelation 12 man-child was saved by being caught up to God's throne. So what I want to say here, this is how Moses fulfills this thematically, not literally, but thematically. Adonai did not save Moses from the devil's evil design when he was born by catching him up to his throne. You see, that's what Revelation 12 says of the Revelation 12 man-child. Revelation 12 man-child was saved or delivered from death. He got his salvation by being specifically caught up to God's throne. That's not how Moses was saved. Moses was saved when his mother hid him and then when Pharaoh's daughter found him. And so it's different. But here's the point. The point is that although Adonai did not save Moses by catching him up to the heaven, he did save Moses when the devil tried to kill him, specifically at his birth. So thematically, there's a match in that Moses was saved from a plot by the devil to have him killed at his birth. How about theme number 6? Revelation 12:6. Then the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by God. Okay, so after giving birth to her man-child, the woman in Revelation 12, it says that she fled into the wilderness because the devil tried to persecute her. Okay. So here, what's going to happen? So we have a little different scenario here, right? So the Revelation 12 man-child is born. The devil tries to kill him. God saves him. And because the devil can't get to the man-child, he turns and persecutes the woman. So we have a different situation with Moses because the nation of Israel was already suffering under oppression from Egypt when Moses was born. However, later in his life, after he became an adult, Adonai, he did send the man-child Moses, hint, hint, to deliver Israel. And then the nation, the woman, literally fled into the wilderness away from Pharaoh, who was being used by the devil. So we do see a literal fulfillment as far as the woman, Israel, being driven into the wilderness, but we only see a thematic fulfillment as far as the timing, because it was years later after Moses' birth. But we will take that literal fulfillment on the fact that after trying to have Moses killed, persecuting the man-child, and then remember Pharaoh tried to have Moses killed later on as an adult. Remember, Moses had to flee. So there were a couple of attempts on his life. And then so Pharaoh first, he was already abusing the Israelites. But then but then later on, the woman actually wound up fleeing into the wilderness. So there's another thematic fulfillment. How about Revelation chapter 12, verse 15? This is our 7th theme. So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman. Oh my goodness. Praise Adonai. Oh, this is so good. Oh, the word of God is so good. It's so delicious. Watch this connection. Here we read here in Revelation 12, how the devil, he will either literally or metaphorically try to use water to destroy the woman in the wilderness. Well, guess what, beloved? On her way to the wilderness, in the story of the Exodus, the devil literally tried to use the waters of the Red Sea to destroy the woman, the nation of Israel, by drowning her in the Red Sea. Remember, Pharaoh said, I've got them hemmed in now. It's over, right? He was going to try to drive them into the Red Sea and use that water to destroy them. So I'm just saying, this is like so good. You just do not know how much it delights my soul to find connections like this, because this is, the devil literally tried to use water. And so this is an astonishing connection, connecting the man-child Moses and the nation of Israel to the woman and the man-child of Revelation chapter 12. It's so good, but it gets even better. Let's look at theme number 8. Revelation 12:16, but the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. Well, what do we read about in the story of Exodus? As a result of Moses escaping from the devil's designs at his birth, the devil persecuted the woman, the nation of Israel, by spewing out water of his mouth, literally or metaphorically, to cause her to be carried away by the flood. But Adonai delivered the woman by having the earth swallow the water. Now, in other words, during the Exodus, Adonai literally used the earth, and it was the wind in particular, to deliver the woman from the waters of the Red Sea by splitting the Red Sea. Hallelujah. Oh my goodness. This is so good. Hopefully I can make it through this episode, because this is so good. It's giving me goosebumps to think about this. In other words, what I'm showing you, beloved, is that when we read through Revelation chapter 12 and we read what's happening with the man-child and the woman of Revelation 12, do you see how it's already happened? It's happened once before with the story of the Exodus. And there's all sorts of reasons why we see these correlations that I don't have time to get into because we're focusing on the man-child. But anyway, there's another connection. And as I told you, Moses, oh my goodness, for people that think that, that Yeshua is the man-child of Revelation 12, that specific man-child, oh my goodness, look at Moses. Moses is just running away with this. But as I said, the man-child of Revelation 12 is not Moses either. But I want you to see these connections because they're going to teach us something. And what we learn from these connections is going to help us understand who the man-child really is. All right, theme number 9. Revelation 12:14. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle that she might fly into the wilderness to her place. Well, did you know that in Exodus 9, so here it's pretty obvious, 2 wings of a great eagle. Well, did you know in Exodus 19:4, you know what it says there? I'm going to quote to you. This is what Adonai said to Moses and the children of Israel. Listen to this. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. This is like so good. I just can't believe this. These connections are so good. They're so good. This is another literal correlation between what happened in Revelation 12 and what happened in the story of the Exodus. This is like, oh my goodness. Okay. And so now you also, hopefully you see why I say studying the Bible thematically, where you try to find connections between scriptures that have similar words, phrases, themes, events, circumstances, situations, etc. It is so exciting when you see these connections come together. All right. Theme number 10. Revelation 12:14, it says, but the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle that she might fly into the wilderness to her place. Right here, I want you to concentrate on the next phrase, where she is nourished for a time, times, and a half time. All right, so obviously Moses and the children of Israel are not going to fulfill this totally, because look, this is saying that as a result of the man-child escaping the devil's designs at his birth, the devil persecuted the woman, the nation of Israel, but she was nourished for 3.5 years in the wilderness. Now, but watch how this parallels with the story of Moses and the Exodus. Although not occurring after Moses' birth, the nation of Israel was made to go through the wilderness for a specific period of time. It was 40 years, not 3.5 years. Also, note this. 3.5 years is equal to 42 months. And note this. When Israel traveled through the wilderness, she made 42 stops in the wilderness, which compares to the 42 months or the 3.5 years Israel will spend in the wilderness in the book of Revelation. So in other words, the connection we have here is literal in this sense. He literally provided for Israel in both stories, he nourished Israel in both stories for a period of time, for a specific period of time. It's just that it's different periods of time. It's going to be 3.5 years or 42 months or 1,260 days in the events that unfold in the book of Revelation, whereas for Moses, it was for 40 years, right? Okay, so again, we're doing well here with these connections. Theme 11, Revelation 12:9. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. All right, so here we learn that the devil was cast out of heaven. In other words, he was cast down to the earth as a result of losing a war which he started in heaven because he couldn't kill the man-child immediately upon his birth. I see a correlation with this, with Moses, and watch this. It's thematic, it's not literal, but watch this. Although the devil was not cast down to the earth, as in Revelation 12, in other words, when we read the story of the Exodus, we don't read anything about the devil being cast down to the earth, right? But watch, we do see a thematic parallel in that Pharaoh was cast down into the Red Sea. Here's a verse from Exodus 15. And I forgot to write down the reference to the verse, but it is in Exodus 15. It says, Pharaoh's chariots and his army he has cast into the sea. His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them. They sank to the bottom like a stone. Pharaoh was cast down. Another wonderful, beautiful thematic connection. Now, it wasn't the devil who was cast down, but it was the one who was carrying out the devil's scheme. So that's why I just say it's thematic. It's thematic. It's not literal, right? It's not the same thing. Pharaoh wasn't cast down from heaven to the earth, but we do see a thematic correlation where we see Israel's enemy cast down, okay? All right, Revelation 12, verses 13 through 14. It says, this is theme number 12. Now, when the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child, but the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time from the presence of the serpent. In other words, as a result of his inability to destroy the man-child at his birth, the devil will initiate the Great Tribulation, a period of a time, times, and a half time. And again, as I said, obviously there is no literal fulfillment with Moses, because Moses and the Exodus happened thousands of years ago. This is saying that this has to do with the Great Tribulation. There's no parallel for Moses as far as timing is concerned, but guess what? Thematically, we clearly see that Pharaoh increased his persecution of Israel, the woman who gave birth to Moses. So in other words, remember, Moses was born. So here's the backdrop, is that the children of Israel were in slavery, right? Okay, so they were already being treated badly. But then remember when Moses came to deliver them, remember his first attempt. And so his first attempt, it didn't go well for the Israelites. Remember, they had to make bricks without straw. In other words, the devil began to persecute the woman of Israel even more than he had before Moses showed up on the scene. And the same thing happens in the book of Revelation. Because the devil can't get to the man-child, he ups the persecution on the nation of Israel. We see that thematically in the story of the Exodus. All right. We've got 3 more themes here. Number 13, and the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring. I don't see any parallel for Moses in that one. Okay, I don't see it. Theme 14, Revelation 12, 7 through 8, and war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven anymore. Don't see a parallel for that for Moses in the Exodus either. And the last theme has to do with Revelation 12:10 through 12, where it said, okay, so what happens is the catching away of the man-child. Well, let me read it. Then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Messiah have come, for the accuser of our brother who accused them before our God day and night has been cast down. Talks about how we overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Oh, and by the way, I just saw a connection there. The children of Israel, they overcame the death of the firstborn by the blood of the Lamb. Anyway, another connection. Anyway, therefore rejoice, O heavens. Anyway, the point is that salvation and strength and the kingdom and the power of his Messiah came as a result of, in other words, the salvation, strength, and kingdom of God and the power of his Messiah came when? When did they come? They came after the catching away of the man-child and the defeat of the devil and his banishment from heaven. That's when it happened, but I don't see a parallel in Moses. All right, so let's take inventory of literal versus thematic fulfillments of Moses and Yeshua and how they correlate with Revelation 12. Moses had 10 literal thematic connections to our story in Revelation 12, two thematic ones, and 4 themes well, you know what? My numbering isn't correct here. I needed to change this slide. Okay, I'm looking at a slide here. Let me see. Let me go back. So Moses, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So there were 12. Okay, yeah. So there were 12. Moses had 12 total connections to Revelation 12. 10 of them were literal, 2 were thematic. That leaves 3 themes, not 4. I'm looking at my notes. It says 4. That should have been a 3. There were only 3 themes that were unmatched, right? Yeshua only had 3 literal connections to Revelation 12. He had either 2 to 4 thematic connections to Revelation 12, depending on how you count them. Thus, there were anywhere from 8 to 10 themes that were not matched by Yeshua. Okay? So Moses, 12 out of 15 themes were matched either literally or thematically, and with Yeshua, only 5 to 7 themes were matched thematically or literally. So what are our conclusions? Well, Yeshua doesn't even meet half of the criteria required to be the man-child of Revelation 12, right? Because we're looking at the entire prophecy of Revelation 12, every verse in those 17 verses, and we're saying, okay, did Yeshua, or, has he fulfilled them? And the answer is no. Moses meets significantly more of the criteria than Yeshua does. If we allow the inclusion of thematic correlations and not just literal correlations, then I'd have to say that Moses is a much better fit for the man-child than Yeshua is. And I think that anyone that would look at what I've presented objectively would have to agree. Nonetheless, I really think we need to require literal correlations, so neither of them are the man-child of Revelation 12, because I believe that those events in Revelation 12 are yet future, and they're going to happen, and there is a man-child that will be caught up to God's throne, and Israel will be persecuted for 3.5 years. So it's just that especially Moses, as I said, 12 out of the 15 themes, Moses was able to fulfill them. What did we say? 10 literal and 2 thematic. That is a pretty good track record, but it wasn't perfect. And again, as I said at the beginning, Revelation 4:1 says that you ought to write those things which shall be after this. So everything in Revelation 12 is future event. Okay. All right. So although Moses fulfilled more connections than Yeshua did, still, as with Yeshua, we had to rely on many thematic fulfillments instead of literal ones. But there's a reason why we see all those thematic, why we see all those fulfillments with Moses, and we're going to get to those in the next couple of episodes. Furthermore, as noted earlier, Moses can't be the man-child because, as I said, Revelation 12 are still events yet future. So, what does it mean that we have two individuals who meet some, but not all, of the correlations to the Revelation 12 man-child? What does that mean? Okay, obviously they both kind of fit the prophecy, right? I mean, Yeshua, as I said, anywhere from at most 5 to 7 connections. And we know that Yeshua is someone who's going to rule the world with a rod of iron. And it says the man-child is going to rule with a rod of iron. So this is a conundrum. It's an enigma. What is going on here? So who then is the man-child? If it's not Yeshua and if it's not Moses, who could that man-child be? Well, guess what? Over the next couple of episodes, we are going to find out who the man-child of Revelation chapter 12 is. May Adonai bless you guys, and may he open your eyes to behold wondrous things from his Torah. I look forward to seeing you next time. Shalom, shalom.